the role of Saudi organizations. The moderator for this panel discussion, Mr. Waheed Al-Kahtani, and I'll just introduce him briefly. And Mr. Waheed, he's the president of the Association Fraud Examiner in KSA. Mr. Waheed Al-Kahtani works as an auditing consultant with the internal audits, and he's currently leading AA advisory group that's provide advisory services in the area of controls and fraud and compliance. Before that, he was responsible for administrating general auditing hotlines, and as well he developing and presenting internal auditing fraud awareness program. Waheed joined Saudi Aramco in 2000 and carries a knowledge and experience with more than 16 years of work in Saudi Aramco and 10 years more with other companies in Saudi Arabia. Please join me welcoming Waheed to the stage.
Salam alaikum. Good morning, everyone. Honorable guests, thank you for being here. As it was mentioned before, this session is about the role of Saudi organization in developing skilled, competent, and competitive human capital via professional certification. In this discussion panel, we will be trying to cover the following four perspectives: how organization can create an effective employee orientations towards the right skills development, what are the common misunderstanding or misconceptions about professional certifications and how we can overcome them, how can supervisors, managers support their employees in obtaining professional certifications, and finally, how can certified employees help train other employees and managers within the organization. To cover these four areas, I have with me three panelists. First, I would like to call Dr. Abdulatif Al-Shaikh. Abdulatif Al-Shaikh, CEO, BA System, Saudi Development and Training, KSA. And also, I would like to call Dr. Mundo Najjar, the National Technology Officer, Microsoft Arabia. Mr. James Kaitz, President and CEO, Association of Financial Professionals. Our first speaker is Dr. Abdulatif Al-Shaikh, CEO, BA System, Saudi Development and Training. Joined BA System, Saudi Arabia in 2001. Most recently, he held the position of a Vice President, Strategy and Business Development, and member of the BA System Saudi Arabia Management Board. He has served as a board member of a number of BA Systems Saudi Arabia partner companies, such as the Advanced Electronic Company, Aircraft Accessories Component Company, and International System Engineering. For the past 2 years, BA System Saudi Development and Training as well. Dr. Abdulatif is also involved in a number of public and private sector initiatives in the kingdom, and he lectured students at Riyadh Al-Yamama University. Dr. Abdulatif holds a master's degree in marketing from the University of Westminster, PhD in business management from University of Please help me welcome Dr. Abdulatif.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. I'm very glad to be here amongst you. This is a very important conference for me and for BA Systems SDT as well. Just before I start, I would like to thank the exhibitors, thanks CERTX, and thanks to you all for attending the session today. I promise you it's not going to be a long presentation. It's going to be very soft, very sweet. And also I have, to a certain extent, answered some of the questions that the moderator just mentioned. Before I go into my presentation, I would like to highlight a number of things. In Saudi Arabia, everybody is talking now about the 2030 vision and how important is the 2030 vision for the Saudi nations or for Saudi people, and how important is it for us to make sure that we have the right target and make sure that we are becoming a first world country. Now, as a BA Systems or as a training and development company, I am sure, and I can assure to you, that vision will not be achieved without a proper training, without a proper investment in training. Usually in some of the companies, when any recession begins or if there is any cost-cutting initiatives happens in public or private sectors, they usually start with training. They cut costs in training in order to make the right savings. That's what I call, those are not smart people. Smart people usually use those kind of pressures to make sure that they have the right capability and they have the right human capital. So, as I mentioned to you before, I will go quickly through the 4 questions, and I've added one more question to what's been mentioned earlier. Why companies should invest in training and development? I think every single person within this room has got 700 answers. I have limited those answers, and I'm sure all of you would agree with me when it comes to the principles of those areas. First, it gives the company a competitive advantage. It takes you to become in the lead when it comes to providing solutions or products or services to your clients. It also lifts the capability or the human capital capability within those organizations to make sure that the investment is put into the right people to do their tasks. It also makes sure or make the assurance that employees are up to date. No matter how employee is an SME or he's a subject matter expert, if he doesn't get developed, it's like, for example, an iPhone. If you have an iPhone and you don't update it, it will be useless. So that's why all companies should invest on their human capital and make sure that their employees are getting the up-to-date certified training. So to answer the second big question of this event, which is how companies can create orientation towards professional development, what would be added, or how can they make sure that employees are giving the right opportunities to make sure to do the training or to get the right training? First of all, you have to make the right environment. If the employee hasn't got the right environment, he will never be able to be trained. Make sure identification, the second one. Make sure that you develop the right people. Worst thing that any company would do is to provide the wrong course to the wrong person at the wrong time. I have personally went through this experience myself. I took a very expensive course in the wrong time, and it was the wrong subject to me. I just costed the company money, didn't gain anything. It is also, as I said to you, it's an added value to the company. So, and also give a clear career path to employees. You have to link those kind of training to career path. Employees need to know that this training is their enabler of success and growth into within the organization. In any organization, as I explained earlier, they usually go towards training when it comes to cost cutting. And there are myths within especially private bodies that Why do we have professional certification? Why do we do expensive training? Because I always see certified training is like you studying in a university. Uncertified training is like you studying in same curriculums in the desert. Nobody is going to give it great attention. So make sure that certification is attached to or the right certification is attached to the training. Some line managers would say that this is expensive, and I always say that smart people would do training. Smart people would invest. This is the right investment. Human capital is the right investment in every single organization. You might have the best products, best solutions, best building, best partnerships. If you don't have the right people who deliver those messages, it's not going to succeed. Some people might say, okay, we might train our employees. Few months or few years, they will leave. Okay, so I think all of you would know, the conversation that happened between a CFO and a CEO. When a CFO asked the same question, what if we develop our employees and they leave? And the CEO replied, what if we don't and they stay? No matter if they leave or not, at least make sure that you have the right capability. As I said, experience is a key, but you need always to make sure that your employees are up to date, they're up to speed. And the biggest mistake that any organization would think that any employee, if he gets the training, that finishes, or if he gets the qualification, that is the end of the journey. No. Getting the qualification is the beginning of the journey for the employee and also for the company. How can, you might see me, concentrating more on training and also the appropriate certificate for it, but you might see me more into training because I do training. I provide development and training to people. So the question is, how can managers support their employees? Or how can they make sure that their employees are getting trained? Make sure that you don't have any financial barriers. As I said, right investment is into human capital. Make sure that workload, you can't give somebody a training and he's still having so many tasks to do. Just make sure that you are offloading some of the workload. Motivate them, make sure that they are getting the right motivation. This is the right path for you guys. This is the right exercise for you to grow in the organization. And also make sure that you choose the right timing. As I said to you, right training, right person, wrong timing is the wrong training. So, as I explained to you, I'm not going to take you much into I would prefer to keep some of the things for the panel discussion. But the last slide, you would see that how can certified employees help train others? You have certified employees. You provided a certification to a number of your employees. How can you make sure that they are spreading the knowledge within the organization? There is always something called mentoring, coaching. We do it in BSS. Make sure that every single employee is mentored by an experienced person, by a certified person. Make sure that they're getting the right coaching, whether it's pull or push. Make sure that they are utilized. They are used towards the right tasks. And also SMEs. SMEs always have, experience, and they all have, the know-how. They have been through certain, exercises before they or after they get the certification, or even before that. So make sure that those SMEs are available for those employees to provide them with the right advices, guidance, support. So that is, to a certain extent, what I was going to present to you. Excuse me if it's not so wordy. I have intentionally made it less words because I wanted to speak more and explain more. This is what I wanted to say today, and hopefully that the discussion is going to be much richer in the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdulatif. Our next speaker is Dr. Mamdouh Najjar, National Technology Officer, Microsoft Arabia. He joined Microsoft Arabia in 2009, worked as the education lead for 2 years and stretch assignments, and it's a CPE citizenship lead since April 2012. Dr. Mamdouh Najjar is a computer scientist, graduated from Illinois Institute of Technology, Chicago, with PhD in computer science. He holds master's degree in computer science and engineering, as well as bachelor degree from King Fahd University for Petroleum and Minerals. Please help me welcome Dr. Mamdouh.
Salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I want everybody to be very, very excited about Vision 2030. We have great opportunities coming on. So we have a new age of NTP and the V 2030. And I think this is a very, very exciting time. My personal perspective is that it came very late in my age. So I hope I'm much, much younger. But unfortunately, it came at this time. So for those of you who are in the 30s and 40s, be very, very optimistic. Those who are in the 50 and 60, you are the advisors, okay? So let's go for the presentation. Okay, what I would like to do today is really to give you some perspective about, what are we doing in Microsoft to enable the digital and the knowledge-based economy of Saudi Arabia. And what are we offering to our students, to our teachers, to our basically professionals, and whoever wants to be really attached to the development of Saudi Arabia in terms of the IT perspective. I'm sure all of you know the vision, but I tried to give you this slide to say that if we do a SWOT analysis of Vision 2030, we look at this slide as the strong pillars, the strength of where we're coming from into this vision. So these are the strong pillars. Now, a question that comes in mind, what are the weaknesses and what are the opportunities and what are the challenges that we have to realize this vision? We know the strength, but there must be some weaknesses that we need to realize before we can realize the Vision 2030. And I think this forum and this conference is really addressing one of the major weaknesses that we suffer in Saudi Arabia. And I want to be very frank with everybody today because we need to get out of the issues on the table. We have major weaknesses here, which is really the capabilities, okay? The capabilities of Saudis and how we really go and execute these capabilities. Now, if we look at we zoom a little bit on the vision, okay, and say, what are we trying to do to be able to be going in a very focused approach? The focused approach is that we want to go into what we call the diversity of the economy. We want to diversify the economy. What does that mean? That means that we have to be competitive, okay? Competitive in everything that we do. Competitiveness means that we have to be global competitors with the industry and with the talent, okay? That is the diversification of the economy. If we want to realize that, we really need to be competitive in terms of talent. And what did the Vision 2030 say? We are gonna identify 4 pillars of growth for this diversification of the economy. One of them is the information technology. And you can see it is spelled out as we will strengthen our investments in the digital sector to attain advanced global position. If IT is one of the growth pillars or one of the 4 growth pillars of Saudi, okay, how does that addressed in the vision? There are programs within the vision that addresses the capability building of Saudis and manages and controlling the talent that is coming to Saudi and going out of Saudi. So if you look at the statement on the right side here, it's basically looking at how do we control the talent that is coming from Saudi. But what I would like to say is that how do we build global talent within Saudi Arabia that we can even export to outside. It's not enough that we build our local capabilities and talent locally, but we should be able to also export this talent and contribute to the global economy rather than just the local economy. Now, to see more and focus more a little bit on the role of IT. What is the role of IT here, and where does it stand within this vision? It has to be aligned with the global trends. Okay, if we need to focus on our IT talent building and capability building, it has to be aligned with what the global trends and what are the technology providers provides. Okay, and this is a survey. This is a survey that is coming and from CEOs, not only in the IT companies, it is all over. And believe it or not, 86% of CEOs consider digital as their number one priority for CEOs. That's not only in the IT companies, everywhere. And this is a global figure. That means the role of IT is expanding, is more impactful, okay, in the industry, whether it is in the IT sector and others. And this slide shows, this is an MGI index where they assess, okay, the level of digitization in each industry. This is in the United States. If it is darker, it means that it is more digital. If it is lighter, it is less digital. So what it says that here, the ICT, for example, the media, the professional services are more digitized. But if you look at the retail, there are more labor incentives. So this graph says that digitization and the role of IT is not only affecting the IT sector, it's all over these sectors. ICT is affecting every piece of our lives, whether it is retail, whether it is manufacturing, oil and gas, everything that we do every day is affected by the IT. And this gives us where the opportunities are in each one of the sectors. So if we want to go and impact the retail, we have to digitize the labor incentives within the retail and so on. So this gives us a view, or where should we really focus in terms of digitization in any plan that we do. Having something like this for Saudi would be really great to be able really to make an impact of digitization. Now this is aligned with our vision in Microsoft, which is a mobile first, cloud first world, where we provide all the connected digital transformation. We call it the digital transformation of Microsoft. I'm not gonna spend much on this, but we really enable this transformation and digital transformation in every industry in the world to impact really the bottom line of the economy. But the learning, the talent is the most important part for us to be able to move with digital transformation. You can see that the talent is not something that we augment at the end of the graduate studies. You get a BS degree and then you get the certification. It's not that. It should be something that we embed in the education itself, whether it is a general education, whether it's a higher education, vocational training, or even the higher professional studies. So there is a huge link between the level of education and the higher GDP. And there are so many statistics showing that building capabilities will definitely impact the GDPs. Okay? The jobs of the future is changing. As many of our panelists said that there will be new jobs. Other jobs will be obsolete by 2020. So we need to know, we need to align, okay? Governments need to align with technology vendors to be able to know what are the jobs of the future. So we have identified in Microsoft, we have done so many surveys, and we have put our perspective in the market and defined exactly what are the jobs of the future. And there are, so many resources that you can get basically to get these jobs of the future. Now, if we look at it from another perspective, what are the skill sets that are needed for today's employers? Okay, so you can see, for example, in the first on the top there, the oral and written communication skills comes at the top, okay, of the skills that are required by employers. The second one, Microsoft Office. The third one becomes the detailed oriented approach, problem solving, the self-esteem and motivation. These are all skills that are required by employers to be able to succeed in your environment or workplace. Going into more certifications on what do we do as Microsoft to enable this motion. So we have invested as Microsoft globally huge resources in really online training, in putting the curriculum, in putting the certifications, making it available in many languages, including Arabic. We have what we call the Microsoft Imagine Academy. This is an academy that that educational institutions can use to train their teachers and then to take it to students, and they can use the software and the curriculum within the laboratories, within the curriculum, so that it makes it much easier for them to embed this culture of professionalism within the education system. We have basically defined, what are the skill sets for each one of these 5 pillars. So if you would like to be in the infrastructure and work on cloud and work on the server sector, this is what the skill sets that you need. If you want to be a desktop professional, this is what you need to do. If you want to go into application development, if you want to go into database development. So each one of this is a track by itself that has its own skill sets, its own certifications, its own curriculum. Okay, and this is the kind of the Microsoft certification pathway. 1 minute, okay. This is the pathway, so it takes you from the first thing or the first course of certification to the second one, to the third one, and so on. So you have the career. You can go through one of these, and you know where you started and where you're gonna be ending, and what are the things that you are required to do in between. These are some mapping of these certifications to our strategy as Microsoft and to the IT strategy of going into cloud. So we have mapped all these certifications to the what we have today, which is the cloud computing, and how can you be part of this motion of transformation to the cloud. These are some resources that you can get. There are so many things there, and it's almost for free. Everything is almost for free for online training. Online training is for free. Microsoft Virtual Academy is a huge academy that have every level of course that you have, for every product, for every job role, okay, for all the levels. You come there, it is free, Microsoft Virtual Academy. It is connected to certifications, so you can go and get all these courses online free to prepare for going into certification. Microsoft Learning is a huge website that has also this one. All the courses online are free, and then you have the Imagine Academy. There are so many things there. The time does not allow me to go into the details, but you can please make a note of this. And finally, I want you to think about this last note. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Mamdouh. Now I've listened to this from an IT perspective. Let's see what the financial professionals will talk to us about. Let me introduce to you Mr. Jim Kaitz, President and Chief Executive Officer, the Association of the Financial Professionals. Mr. Kaitz is a president of an association that represents over 16,000 treasury and financial professionals globally. The organization established and administers the Certified Treasury Professional, Certified Corporate Financial Planning and Analyst Professional, setting the standard of excellence in finance. Also, it's good to talk about their annual conference, which is the largest networking event in the corporate finance professional. He was formerly the Executive VP and Chief Operational Officer of the Financial Executive Institute. Please help me welcome Jim Kaitz.
Thank you very much. This morning has been interesting and really enlightening for me as I've traveled all over the world, and I think you're being a little tough on yourself. I can tell you that the talent gap, certainly as it relates to finance, is pretty widespread throughout the world, and I think the effort that you're undertaking here is really commendable because you're acknowledging it from from your country's standpoint. And I think that's incredibly uplifting, quite frankly, this dialogue that you're having. So I think you're maybe being a little tough on yourself at times, but I also think that there's a lot of great opportunity. And what I just want to talk about briefly this morning, as an organization that is a professional society, we are a not-for-profit. And I will tell you that we have seen literally throughout the world, when it comes to corporate finance, there is a significant talent gap. We mentioned we have two certifications, one in corporate financial planning and analysis, one in certified treasury professional, and then we have extensive training. I will tell you that our certification is a practitioner-based certification. It's not a theoretical certification. We use a formal job analysis. So when you go through either of our two certifications in the finance world, they are from a very practical standpoint. It is what a practitioner does in his or her job. Now, we've talked a lot about this today. I like to use third-party validation. There's no question that there's discussion all over the world about investing in employees and how that pays significant dividends to all of you. To put it in a finance perspective, I think we've looked at employees as a liability on the balance sheet. I think we have to look at employees as assets on a balance sheet. And that's a lot of what you've been talking about today. We have to look differently as that employee and how can we help them, because they clearly are an asset on the balance sheet. And there are multiple surveys that demonstrate that if you invest in your employees, the benefits to the organization will be significant. There will be increased shareholder value. You will see increased profitability. You will see increased engagement from your employees. All of that leads to better performance in each of your organizations. How to create that highly engaged employee? I can't necessarily speak from your country, but certainly in my country, we have to focus on that millennials, that 25 to 35-year-old cohort. It's a very different employee, and it's an employee that we all have to focus on because they have great opportunity, but they have to be treated in a little bit different way. They think of the world a little bit differently. So I would encourage you to think long-term, just not focused on your current gap, but what you think those skill sets will be like. When it comes to finance and IT, we've talked about it today. The digital transformation is coming. You've got to have employees, whether they're in finance or IT or in supply chain or procurement, that understand data analytics, that understand data visualization, that understand what the impact of artificial intelligence and machine learning, blockchain. I don't care where you are in the world, at least in my world for finance, all of these are going to change the focus of the world and the skill sets that you're going to need, or your people that work with you, to be successful. So I would also encourage you to look internally, to create those personal development plans that we talked about. And I think it's thematic of this conference is really to make the training a must-have, not a nice-to-have. Now, just turning quickly to finance, and I won't take a lot of time, but for those of you that look at the finance function, I will tell you that the CFO or the finance function new responsibility is to drive profitable growth in the company. That's the goal. It's not to look back necessarily in the accounting, which is important. Treasury focused on cash needs of today. But the new finance organization has got to be focused on driving profitable growth in the company. And I don't care if you're a for-profit, a not-for-profit, a state-owned enterprise, it all is about revenues exceeding expenses. How you account for them, in my view, doesn't really matter. The other thing is finance has the opportunity to be the analytics hub of the company, but they have to have the right skill sets to do that. And this just isn't an issue for you here in this country, but literally all over the world with our corporate clients. So this is our global certification on financial planning and analysis. My guess in your organizations, the most people in your company are focused on financial planning and analysis. That really is looking forward doing the budgeting, but most importantly, the forecasting and the modeling and using the data analytics skills, the data visualization skills to drive that profitable growth in your company. All of this material is at our booth. I'm happy to share with you, but you can see that it is a two-part exam. It is a rigorous exam. The one thing that I want to, people talk a lot about certifications, but step back for a minute, what a certification does. For you as a manager, it gives you the ability to independently assess the skill sets of your team. That's critical. Whether you have your current internal team, whether you're hiring, whether you're acquiring an organization with skill sets, the certification gives you that ability to level set across the organization. So this is our FP&A exam. We also have a certification in corporate treasury. This shows you all of the domains for this exam. This shows you a little bit more detail, everything that's entailed, and all of this information we have at our booth. I will tell you again, they're rigorous. They're updated every 3 years. We require continuing education credits. You can't say at one point, well, I know everything about this topic today, because the world is moving much too quickly. So all of our certifications, and I know there are a number of them also in the exhibit floor, also require that continuing education. Is critical today, given how quickly things change. Finally, we have extensive education and training. We have some of the largest companies in the world as our corporate partners. We can teach extensive training. Oh, there it is. And you can see in a whole range of issues. Another topic that did come up again this morning, communication skills. How do you take those analytical skills, but also communicate those down to the business units? Incredibly important for finance. Finance tends to hide behind numbers. Finance needs to be able to take those numbers, be able to tell a story around those numbers, and communicate those numbers down to the operating units in order to be effective to drive that profitable growth. So in sum, there's lots of great quotes about education and training. The columnist Tom Friedman is quoted here. He wrote, as I'm sure many of you know, the world is flat. We had him as a speaker at our conference. There are two things that stuck with me when I listened to him. One, obviously this quote, but then he said, this generation, our generation, adequate is not good enough. And I think that's words to live by.
Thank you, Jim. I'd like to thank all the panelists and leave the Q&A for the attendees. If you have any questions, ones that you would like to direct them to one of the panelists, or if you want to throw like a general question.
Salam alaikum. Abdulatif Tamimi, HR manager for Sagian. Now, my question is to Dr. Mamdouh. First of all, I'm a Microsoft enthusiast. I really love what Microsoft is doing right now. I think that they are really leading the innovation in the market, so thank you so much. My question is actually as a people development professional and also as a father at the same time. Looking back at the educational system that we have right now, and I think that's one of the biggest weaknesses that the educational academic sector usually facing, is that it's really outdated and it's very slow in terms of adapting to the new technologies, specifically speaking, Microsoft and the operating Windows as an operating system right now. So very recently, I was just teaching going through the computer, they call it the computer, I think, PC subject at the schools, and we were going through something like serial boards. We're going through something like, when you talk about a mouse, they are not talking, when it comes to tracking, they're not using laser, they're pointing out to the sphere, to the pole. That's not even being used right now. I'm sure a lot of us have not been seeing that. So my question is, what are you doing as a leading organization in this form into trying to help the government sector, the academic sector, specifically speaking, about what I'm facing right now to help and adapt the fast and amazingly advancing technologies that we are facing right now?
Thank you for the question. I think this is really key because it touches really millions of our students and teachers, and this is the biggest sector, that we have in Saudi. Really, we have so many, we have about a million teachers and probably 10 million students. Okay, so this is really big. To your question, I think the technology is going so fast that it is really very challenging for any organization to be able to adapt to these technologies as fast as the technology is going. But organizations are trying their best really to kind of, catch up with the rate of change in technology. Now, when the organization is smaller, that becomes much easier because the adoption there is going to be, faster. It's much more agile for a small organization to align with the technology. When the organization is big, okay, and huge, then it becomes very, very challenging. Okay, it's like a big, if you have a small boat, you can navigate with a small boat very easily within seconds. But if you have a big ship, okay, it's very difficult to turn a big ship in a faster way. So we understand the challenge that we have with the education in Saudi. Okay, we're trying our best. We're enabling, the teachers and the students through a memorandum of understanding that we signed 3-4 years ago with the ministry. We're doing so many programs to be able to kind of update the curriculum within the Ministry of Education and position, innovative programs like the Imagine Cup, like Imagine Saudi. There are so many programs that we're working with the Ministry of Education. But to be honest with you, we still have a big challenge. We still have a big challenge. We are not there. We're not even 20% of what we wish to be there. But this is a shared responsibility. It is not something that Microsoft alone will take. It's a shared responsibility between technology vendors as a whole, not only Microsoft. Technology vendors as a whole and the partner in the government, specifically the Ministry of Education. So we're really looking forward to have a greater partnership and to focus on not only updating the curriculum, but also to put, some priority into the certifications. Okay, like Microsoft, certified professional in desktop, for example, for the students, as an example. Okay, so we're looking forward for that, but the challenge is still big. We're not there.
Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum. So myself, Syed Masood Ali. I am a Vice President Operations in Meher Global Consulting Company. I have a question with Mr. Abdulatif Al-Shaikh. So my question is, after getting the training of 5 days or 7 days or 10 days,
After getting the certificate?
after getting the training, the person who is getting the trainings, and after that he will be a certified trainer or certified professional.
Yeah.
So, but when he come to the job, after getting the training,
Yeah.
he is not so competent to perform the job properly. So, but he, according to his qualification, he's saying that I am a certified professional.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a gap in the training and the competencies.
Yeah.
So don't you think that we should change the methodology to issuing the certificate for the professional after getting some experience?
Okay, right.
This is my question.
I got your question now. Now, making sure that the person who delivered the course is certified, whether he has got the right certification. In BA systems, I'm saying in BA systems SDT, we make sure that we get the right feedback, and we make sure that those instructors are equipped with the right, not only certification, but there are certain elements that in BA systems we look after. The way they deliver the course. Also, usually we say don't get fooled by certification. It's not only the certification; it's the track record of any instructor who provides that course. The channel, no matter how important or how strong is the curriculum, and how strong or how important is the course itself, as I explained in my presentation, if there is no channel, which is the instructor, who has the right certification, he has the right skills, in order to deliver that communication to those students, that is not going to work. So I totally agree with you. There are in certain area, in certain training organization, people full of certificates. You know, very, very, very professional, and some of them are not only you know, professional certificates. Some of them are academic certificates. And when it comes to reality, when it comes to practicing this, they can't do it. They just can't do it. In BA systems, we don't only give attention to the certificates. We make sure that we have the right CV. We monitor the instructor. We get the right feedback from students. What were the pros and cons, to make sure that the knowledge is transferred appropriately.
You know, I just would say it's one of the things we focus on with our corporate customers. It's just not the responsibility of the individual. It's also the responsibility of management to make sure that you can operationalize that content within the organization. Knowledge for knowledge's sake is just that. It's how you take that knowledge and apply it to the organization to drive whatever that outcome is. So I think it's a partnership between the individual and the corporation and those people in learning and development to make sure that that training is practical training that's going to have an actual impact on the organization. Because for an individual just to learn and then not be able to apply that to the company, to what end? So I think it is a partnership between the learning individual and the corporation.
Thank you very much for the great insight provided.